And I think it's just a nice little place to start because, fuck, dude, I got so much air coming out of my body right now. Yeah.
There's our clip for the opening of the.
You're welcome.
Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared cast.
So it begins.
Hello. I'm Jared. With me is Jared. This is the Jared cast. What a coincidence. Did you not read the title? Did you not read the podcast that you clicked on? We're back, bitches, with more Breaking Bad and Bebop because we're beating the shit out of this dead horse as much as we can.
Yep.
How you doing? How's life?
Life is good, man. Life is good. I just got 3 fillings, so my teeth are sensitive, but I also had Dominoes, so it was a nice, it's a nice balance of the moods.
Or win some, you lose some. Not a win-win.
Yeah. It's a nice balance of moods. But yeah. What about you?
Hell yeah. I'm good. I'm having a bit of a stressy week. But we're chilling. We're getting through it. I get to watch some dank ass movies, as the kids call it. So how can I complain?
Hell yeah. It's weird. It's weird doing movie reviews again.
It is. It feels wrong. It feels like we've adjusted our sails too many times.
Yeah.
If you didn't catch on to what's going down, we talked about Breaking Bad a lot. We talked about Cowboy Bebop a lot. So now we're going to do the movies for each as a little wrap-up episode to polish her off. Yeah, I'm hyped. This is cool. It worked out that they both just so happened to have cash grab movies made after the fact.
and they're both pseudo westerns too. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Shall we?
We shall.
Dope. Before we start our movie reviews, I got a fun little top 5 for us. When Jared suggested this top 5, I was like, oh, that's easy. I can easily do that. And then I just went down this entirely crazy rabbit hole of our top 5s to discover our top 5 cinematic hats. And I'm looking up hat terminology. I'm looking up nomenclature for different different hats in different cultures. I'm looking up which color did this character wear, which color hat of the same kind did one character wear in one scene versus another. I'm looking up all this stuff. And I tried to be really strict on myself. I didn't include any masks or cowls or tiaras. I stuck to the criteria of hats in cinema. So
and
hopefully,
then there's me who bullshitted every single one of these, except one or two. I guess two. You could make an argument that I have only 2, potentially 1 hats on my list, but it's good to have diversity. That's why we do it. You don't want us both to have actually 5 hats. That's not why you're so on the edge of your seat about these top 5s. You want some spice. You want a little bit of flavor. Why don't you kick us off?
Yes. My number 5 is a very iconic silhouette. It looks good on him with or without a shirt. Of course, I'm talking about the cavalry hat worn by Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore in the film Apocalypse Now. The lovely and talented and multifaceted Robert Duvall is, of course, one of the best to ever do it. I love the unnecessarily tall crown of the cavalry hat. It looks very, very out of place in the jungle. And it's kind of a symbol of his ego. It's a symbol of the way he perceives himself and his military unit. It's also symbolic of the United States ego in that country. They are just basically dropping bombs onto trees from helicopters in a very cowardly way, but they're doing it with a sense of superiority and a sense of grandiose ego. And so, and it's all kind of encompassed by his combination of hat and sunglasses. So yeah, that's my number 5 cavalry hat.
Yeah, it's a fantastic choice. My number 5 is a true hat. We're getting one of the true hats right off the bat. And it's a classic one. It's one that I feel like pretty recognizable, especially with the rest of the getup. It's classy, even though it's a kind of trampy character. That's Charlie Chaplin's bowler hat.
As soon as you said trampy, I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, it's fucking tight. A lot of good visual gags with the hat too. Once fetched $60,000 at an auction when paired with the cane that he had.
Crazy.
Which is a large amount of money. And yeah, it's just tight. It's classic. Nobody could really pull it off, much like that mustache, than Charlie. And so it's coming at my number 5.
Yeah. I think one other person could pull off that mustache, but
Who? Say it. Say Hitler looks good.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. That mustache really seduced a whole nation. Huh?
Yeah. Seduced is the correct. Oh boy.
Oh my god. All right, my speaking of egomaniacal crazy people, Ordell Robbie is my number 4 from the film Jackie Brown. I love Samuel L. Jackson in this role, and he wears a Kangol hat. He wears multiple Kangol hats. He wears a red one, a black one, but the one that I want to highlight is the one that you first see him in. It's baby blue. It's a baby blue Kangol hat. You can see the logo because he wears it backwards and like a cool man. And he wears a lot of Kangol hats even in real life. But the thing that I like about the way he the thing I like about this one is the way that he coordinates it with his royal blue pants. He looks great in the whole frame. It looks dope. And the color choice kind of suggests exactly what he wants to suggest in the scene, which is a false friendliness and a sense that you're dealing with someone who's a silver-tongued devil and someone who can use words to manipulate people and has something sinister behind his eyes. And it's really great because it contrasts with the black Kangol hat later on. Did you see Jackie Brown?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Spoiler alert. When he kills Chris Tucker in the film, he wears a black one because he's doing evil deeds at night, stuff like that. It's kind of cool that they put that much effort into a hat that Samuel L. Jackson already wears in real life. I really like it.
I saw it's an old interview that I loved already, but it re-popped into my life. Have you seen the interview where he tries to get some white interviewer to say the N-word when he was talking about Django?
Yeah.
It's fucking great. Yeah, what a legend.
11.
My number 4 will begin the eye rolling because it's not a hat. But I'm gonna, for the sake of my arguments, I'm gonna stick to my guns and say that it is. What are hats if not just various headwear? So it's a helmet. it's a straight up helmet.
It's okay, Jerry.
It's a kind of cliche one too. So we're getting bonus points here because it's Boba Fett's helmet.
Ooh.
Yeah. Might be a hot take putting it over Darth Vader's helmet, but I like Boba Fett's helmet a lot more. It's basically got Iron Man-esque powers in it, but they did it cooler, I think. It's badass, it's intimidating. It's harkens back to the ancient Mandalorians. And it's just fucking cool, and Boba Fett's a cool ass motherfucker, and so it's my number 4.
Hell yeah, dude! It's a hat or not, it's a great pick because just like less than 5 minutes of screen time inspired countless novels and comics and now a whole TV show. So yeah, great pick.
Crazy.
Great pick. My number 3 is very, very different from that one. But it's very different from all of them because I think what's nice about this hat is that it really kind of matches the whole character's vibe. It's a black brimmed boater hat with a black band, but it's kind of worn out a little bit, but it's also adorned with flowers and berries. And the character's very sassy. She's very stern. She's very eccentric, but also very radiant and very beautiful and loves life and loves nature. So, of course, I have to pick Mary Poppins Hat in the 1964 film, worn like an absolute champion by Julie Andrews in one of my favorite musicals as a little child. The hat is incredibly versatile as well. Like, it looks great in her entrance. It looks great in her exit at the end of the film, but it also looks great when she's wearing red in the chimney sweep dance sequence. Like her, the hat is just practically perfect in every way. So that's why it's my number 3.
Hell yeah! I don't think you'll get any arguments for that one.
Mm-hmm.
My number 3, you won't get any arguments either because crowns are definitely hats. I've come to the conclusion that they are just hollowed out hats, and so we're counting it.
All right.
This is coming from a show that has many a crown, arguably too many a crown, and it causes a bit of a kerfuffle. And that's Game of Thrones. I don't know. It's a little underrated show. Nobody's ever really seen it. It might be a little too indie for this crowd.
Yeah.
But there's one crown that sticks out to me. It may be a hot take, but if you disagree, fuck you, you're wrong. And that's Renly Baratheon's crown. Made of like antlers.
Oh, okay.
Tight. Yeah. I think
totally,
you're the most puzzled.
Yeah, there's so many characters. I forgot who Renly was for a second.
Yeah. He's kind of a fucking nobody, but he's got the most badass crown ever.
True.
It's I don't know. I think it's by far the coolest. Cersei's is pretty sick too, but I think Renly takes it.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. I love it a lot. It's my number 3.
My number 2 is a white Borsalino made in Italy. The company has been open and selling hats internationally since 1857. The film takes place decades after that, actually. And a lot of us film folks, a lot of us cinephiles love Wong Kar-wai, and they love In the Mood for Love or Chungking Express or Happy Together or Fallen Angels. Like, those are always the go-tos for people. But actually, my gateway into Wong Kar-wai was much later. It was the film The Grandmaster, which tells the story of Ip Man. And Ip Man in the opening scene of the film, is describing his version of Kung Fu. And he's describing the concept of horizontal and vertical movement in Kung Fu. And so you see close-ups of him talking about that, and then they cut to close-ups of the hat, which kind of symbolizes both of those things. He was also he never really there's no pictures of him wearing a white Borsalino in real life, but he did wear it. He did wear Western clothing in history, so I think it fits. But they cut in between that, in between him describing his philosophy and him beating the shit out of like dozens of men, and it's really cool. Tony Leung is just recently came out with his first American film, but I really love this film. I love the Grandmaster. It's generally one of my favorite slow-mo sequences, but I love the way the rain bounces off the center dent crown, the black band, still like really just really nice contrast with the rest of the white hat. I really love this hat, even though it's kind of a rip off of the hat in Les Samurai, but it's fine.
It's whatever. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen enough of Wong Kar-wai's stuff, so maybe we need to do an episode on him so I can catch up.
Oh, sure.
Also, top slow-mo sequences would be a rad top 5. Keep that in mind.
It would.
My number 2, it wouldn't be Jared's list without a little bit of comedy in here. And so we're doing it. When I looked up the definition of hat and helmet earlier because I was insecure, and it defined Webster's dictionary. No, this was before we recorded too. I don't even have it up. I should have pulled it up again. But it said helmets were protective, and hats just kind of were more decorative.
Yes.
This one's not protective. It's all for show. And for brilliant shows full of artistic mastery, and that's I forget the character's name, but Jorma's helmet in Popstar never stops stopping.
Oh man, that's a great pick. Holy shit!
It's got the best light show you ever seen. It's got a giant blinding spotlight on the top. It plays the sound effect from War of the Worlds. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's a 10 out of 10 helmet, and it's not protective, so therefore it's a hat.
There you go. A hat whose entire purpose is just to outdo Daft Punk. I love it.
Yep. Yo, outdo Daft Punk and shit on Marshmallow, and you're good.
Oh man, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
That's a great pick. My number 1 is also from a comedy, and it's also very, very decorative. I think the reason why this is my number 1 is because I've only seen this movie once, and it was as a kid. But the image of this woman wearing this hat has been buried into my head, and I think buried into pop culture since it was first out in the public. I'm of course talking about Audrey Hepburn in the film My Fair Lady. She wears a lot of great hats in this film, but specifically the one that I'm talking about is referenced in fashion as a picture hat. But it's this really like enormous hat that kind of tilts on the right down the right side of her head. It's got really gaudy feathers, and this insane size of the brim is as big as her upper body, her entire upper body. And the choice of the colors is absolutely brilliant. She looks amazing in it, even though her character is kind of supposed to be out of her comfort zone in that sequence. The whole premise of My Fair Lady is that this is a woman who grew up poor and is now trying to fit into high society, and she's at this derby race where everybody's dressed in black and white clothing, and she's got black and white clothing, but she's got one red flower in this hat, and it kind of shows that her individuality is still leaking out, and that she retains it despite the societal pressures. So I really love this hat, and I love this performance in this film.
Yeah, I think it's a classic for a reason.
Hell yeah.
And keeping with that theme of in-depth character analysis based off costume design, my last one's Dark Helmet. But not the one that you're thinking of. His safari hat when they're combing the desert.
Oh my god, of course. Okay, see, that qualifies. That's not a helmet.
Yeah, that's one is a hat.
Yeah.
That one's an actual hat.
There you go.
And also, it's funnier. Like the Dark Helmet, actual Darth Vader helmet is hilarious. But the fact that they like keep that theme for just dumb gags like this makes both even funnier.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you haven't seen Spaceballs and you're a nerd, weird. weird move. But yeah, the safari hat is fantastic.
Yeah. I love that hat, and I love that scene because it's also the scene where they have the comb the desert gag.
Yeah.
And then they cut to the two black stormtroopers. They have like an offer. It's so good.
Oh, it's great. It honestly is probably my favorite scene in that whole movie for all of those reasons.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
and it's great.
Love it.
So number one, dark helmets, safari helmet.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm,
Yeah.
you don't need to beat yourself up because I'm proud of both of us for not picking Indiana Jones.
Yeah, or the Sorting Hat in Harry Potter.
Yeah, I was tempted to cop out on my number because I was struggling with my number 5. I was tempted to cop out and do that, but I didn't.
It was the low hanging fruit, and we avoided it. Sin
yeah.
shall not be brought into the world today.
Yep. Good
Before
list. Good
we,
list.
yeah, you too. Beautiful. Before we jump on into the meat of the episode, I was curious to get your thoughts on something.
Ooh.
Because some ridiculous casting was announced today. I don't know if you already heard.
Maybe.
The laugh kind of gives me a hint. The Mario movie that's coming out soon.
Oh no.
No. Okay. Well, this will be even better then. I wanted to get your thoughts. I'll read it to you. You don't have to look it up.
Okay.
I'll read you the list, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. We'll try to keep this quick because we're already 22 minutes in this recording.
It's okay. These aren't deep movies.
Starting from the lowest billing in terms of star power in the cast, playing Cranky Kong, we have Fred Armisen. Pretty good.
Are these voices, or are they going to be like motion capture?
It's an animated movie.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just voices.
Okay.
As far as I know, motion capture would be fucking hilarious.
My anxiety's a little less like
for the sake of how funny this will be. Just imagine him on motion capturing.
Sure. Okay.
As Toad, the voice of Toad, Keegan-Michael Key.
Okay.
Which is a little strange. It's fine though. He's a talented dude.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be fine with it. Coming in with Donkey Kong, I feel like it was obligatory for some reason, but Seth Rogen will be playing Donkey Kong.
Okay.
Then we've got Bowser, played by Jack Black.
All right.
It just feels like they put no thought. They're like, they're like Bowser, Jack Black. All right,
just like a word association with the producers.
Yeah, literally. And then with Princess Peach, one of the hottest tickets in Hollywood right now, it seems, Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm kind of here for it. Like I'll take her at anything. I think it could be tight.
If it's gonna be like a 50-year-old dude playing Mario, though, I'm gonna be.
We'll see. My favorite casting, Luigi. We're not getting to Mario quite yet. Charlie Day will be playing Luigi.
Okay.
Who's zany? Charlie Day. All right.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah. And then Hollywood's golden boy, Chris Pratt, will be playing Mario.
Of course they did. Oh my god.
Because obligatory.
Jeez.
Yeah, it just felt funny. I was laughing the whole time they announced it today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So who's producing this? Is this which company is it?
It's the ones that made Despicable Me and Sing. Imagination. What's their name?
Imagine
No, like but the animation studio behind them is doing it too.
Illumination.
Illumination, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're making it.
Oh,
Who
man.
knows? It was just a weird, a weird group of people.
Yeah, no, like I like some of it. Like Jack Black as
Yeah.
Bowser, I'm definitely there for it.
Yeah, well,
Um,
Jack Black is anything, and you would be,
yeah, yeah,
down for it.
that's true. That's true. I shouldn't. Yeah. I'm a little mad that Luigi isn't Billy Eichner.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, I think he'd be a better voice actor,
yeah,
personally.
but we'll see. I like Charlie Day. I like Charlie Day.
Yeah,
So we'll see how
Chris
that
Pratt
goes.
as Mario is insane to me. I don't
Yeah,
see it
as,
at all.
I don't see it at all. Like, how is he gonna do an Italian accent? Like,
Is he just gonna go wahoo the entire?
yeah, I'm thinking like, okay, which Italian actors are even out there? Like, the guy from Brooklyn. Like, I don't know. like, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
What's his name? Emery Cohen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Mixed feelings on this cast reaction.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
That's
We'll see.
though. I don't even think Chris Pratt is Italian. So gentrifying my culture, it's fine. Anyways,
Anyways,
should we get on with some El Camino : a Breaking Bad movie?
sure.
No, we shouldn't, because before we do, cool. Bad reviews. Yeah. We have to do Jared reads bad reviews of movies. We're back. We're back with movies that we're watching because it's funny and it makes them laugh and stuff. This installment comes from Quentin Chow, which from October 2019, giving it a 1 out of 10, saying definitely not an action movie, just one action scene at the end, talking nonsense entire film, avoid at all cost. Bit of a long title, a bit wordy. I think I picked this one because they clearly have not seen Breaking Bad, and I think it's hilarious to watch this out of context. Maybe they have, but whatever. So here we go. It's also another hard one to read, so
we'll
see. The films start with a man, quote, Jesse, talking with an old man. He want to retire and go to Alaska. He chased by police and taking refuge in a house with two men playing video game scene. With two men playing video game scene. As turn out, this film is about Jesse capture and torture by Todd and his gang. He escape and back to his house to retrieve the money he hide in a fridge to make a run to Alaska. He robbed by two fake cop when he trying to retrieve the money. Entire film full of overused TV news scene. The pacing of the film is quite slow. This film clearly is want to contend for Oscar instead of giving entertaining audience. Keep showing close-up scene of main actor. The conversation also very bored and not intense. Barely laughable scene is Jesse go to vacuum cleaner shop and ask boss to help him. The boss refuse and call the cop. Jesse opinionated the boss is faking the call. The cop arrive after the call. Barely intense scene is Jesse went to place of guy who robbed him. The guy challenged him to gunfight. Jesse shot him dead and shot another man in the head along the event. This scene quite bloody and have some glass broken. The capping it off with two men got shot and glass broke. He eventually burned down house by leaking the gas. El Camino actually the car name. And this film not even about a car. Ridiculous. At the end, Jesse eating with Walt at the restaurant. Ed borrow his truck to Jesse to go to Alaska. That's it. Deceived by action genre to watch it. Turn out, it completely let down. Not recommend.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what a that just sounds like the plot of the movie written by Vince Gilligan's like evil twin that he kept in the basement.
Yeah.
And so the
For
twin never
real.
learned English, so he just kind of
just scribbled it down.
he just heard
It's like,
words
here you
through
go,
the door.
Vince.
Yeah.
Here, Vince is hit.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I love it a lot. I like the Jesse talk with old man. Like it's not Mike in the place that Mike died. Like it's a big emotional event for everybody else.
Oh my god.
It's great. I love it. Oh. So Breaking Bad, colon or El Camino colon a Breaking Bad movie.
Yes.
It picks up right where Breaking Bad left off. It was originally going to be called 63 because it was going to be the 63rd episode of Breaking Bad, which is a terrible title, and I'm glad they didn't because that means nothing. Yeah, it picks up right where left off, kind of filling in the gaps that were left by the lack of Jesse in the especially last half of season 5, but kind of the last season of Breaking Bad. It gives us a little Jesse taste, and I think it does a pretty decent job at it. I think it's cool. It's something that I was definitely missing. One of the only things that I was kind of lacking in that last season of Breaking Bad was I wanted more Jesse, or what the fuck happened to Jesse after he was free. And so we get it. It does at times feel like a bit of, hey, remember this character? Ooh, isn't that cool? We still got him. And like it kind of falls into that a bit where it's like, oh, we've got these people, remember this. Just kind of harboring off of Breaking Bad. And those moments do feel like kind of a cash grab, kind of not. It depends on my mood when I'm watching the film, honestly. But overall, I like it. I think they do a pretty decent job. Slightly chubbier Aaron Paul does a great job reprising his role. Slightly chubbier Todd does a great, or Jesse Plemons does a great job reprising his role as Todd. It's great. I like it for what it is. I didn't go in expecting it to be the masterpiece that Breaking Bad was the whole time. And so it was some nice closure on a character I liked a lot. I didn't really put too much weight onto the movie when it came out, and I certainly don't now. And so for that reason, I gave it a 7.8 out of 10.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It's a good score.
You? General thoughts?
My general thoughts are mostly the same. I also gave it a 7.8. I think it's a fantastic kind of double down on the modern Western vibes of the final season of Breaking Bad. You know, they go for that anamorphic look. They go for a much slower pace, a much more deliberate choice in the music. Jesse Plemons talked about the movie and said it was about a struggle to survive. Definitely felt that, not just physically but emotionally. And I cannot get enough of Aaron Paul as Jesse, and I cannot get enough of Jesse Plemons in any movie. And I agree. Like it fixes the one glaring flaw in season 5, and it goes a little bit beyond that. It's Vince Gilligan intended it to be a coda to the entire series, and I believe it was that. And I like the homage to the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like I like most of the cameos in the film, but the look of the film is something I'm not a huge fan of, especially in the daytime scenes. In night it looks great. It looks like exactly how an RE digital camera should look like. But
even a lot of the internal or interior scenes look pretty good. But like something about the daylight is just off.
It's just not very. The palette is boring. I
They need a
like that
big yellow filter over.
well, I just, they tried to be unique from Breaking Bad, but it ended up looking the same as every other Netflix film out there, where it's, yellow and light blue or orange and teal, and like I'm not, I understand why they wanted the low light. I understand why they wanted the anamorphic frame, especially in the final act. But it's also just too sharp. I missed the filmic look of Breaking Bad season 5 and Breaking Bad as a whole series. I do. There are some shots in here that I'll highlight later on, and it's not all bad. Like the cinematography, they really put a lot of love and effort into it, and I applaud them for that. It just didn't not work for me for the most part. I think the writing is really is really good, but sometimes it takes itself a little too seriously. We'll get more in depth on the writing, I'm sure, later on. But yeah, I also gave it a 7.8. I think it's a very good movie. I don't think you should watch this independently of the series at all.
It's gonna make zero sense to you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big differences between this and Cowboy Bebop is like you can like I wouldn't recommend watching it separate from the series, but you can enjoy Cowboy Bebop the movie and then watch the series, or you can watch the whatever. Or yeah, I like it. I think it's a good movie, but it could have been better, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're pretty much in the same boat about it. One thing I did miss about the cinematography too was they don't have like any of the weird POV shot. Like they don't do any of the super weird shit that they do in Breaking Bad, where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put a camera on a Roomba and just let it roam around a room." Like those kinds of just weird moments. I think even throwing in some of those would have been cool.
Right.
But it's fine.
You wanted a different kind of fan service.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. I think I like that they tried deviating from the style of Breaking Bad, but ultimately you're in the same world. Like you don't need to deviate. You did it right, like the first time. Why fuck with a good thing? But I mean, it pretty much worked out for them. They had a budget of a little over $6 million. In the box office, it made 40,000, and so pretty big success. It sounds like it flopped, but really 2.65 million people watched it within a day.
Oh yeah.
6.5 million people watched it opening weekend. And then after the first week, 25 million households had seen the film, according to Netflix and Nielsen. So it didn't flop. It was a fucking massive success. It spurred a tequila. And so now it's yeah, like Aaron Paul and Walter, or not Walter, like Bryan Cranston. Dude, I've done that like 3 times already today. Oh, Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul had a like tequila come out after this movie, which was strange.
Is it good?
I haven't had it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I have had a few actors liquor, like George Clooney's tequila is actually pretty fire.
All right.
But the king of actor liquors for me is actually Channing Tatum's vodka. That shit is smoother than a motherfucker. Like I can't take shots. That is the easiest shot I've ever taken.
Nice.
Besides like mixed stuff. So shout out Channing Tatum. Come on an episode. We
bring Zoe Kravitz.
Bring Zoe Kravitz, please. You can stay. you don't even.
You don't even have to come. Like, just tell her about the show.
Yeah. Oh, creepy. Anyways, we're talking Breaking Bad movies.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know where to start. I guess we could go character. We did the show pretty much character by character, so why not keep that ball rolling?
All right.
Show opens with Mike. He doesn't get a lot of treatment in this, but I like that he's in it.
Yeah.
I think his scenes were worthwhile. Nice little footnote into what he wanted to do as a human before he died. And I think it's just a nice little place to start because fuck, dude, I got so much air coming out of my body right now. Yeah.
There's our clip for the opening of the.
You're welcome. What is this podcast if not hot air coming out of my body?
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Really is, for real. Oh boy, yeah. I like Mike in it. Jesse and him got close. It's cool that we start from there.
Yeah.
We learn? I forget if we learn in the show that going to Alaska was his idea, or if it is just this movie. Because I know it's mentioned in the show, but I don't know if it was just Jesse, like on a whim, being like, "Alaska, motherfuckers."
I thought Alaska was mentioned with him and Jane in season 2. I think that's the only place.
Yeah, it definitely is. Which is cool. It's kind of serendipitous then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I think about Mike's appearance the same as I do Jane's. Like it's a nice little footnote reminder of the impact these people had on him, but it's not like, oh, you're steering the ship for Jesse now, in a way.
Yeah.
But what'd you think of, like, I mean, you could even throw Badger and Skinny Pete in there. Well, like all the little small cameos that don't have a ton to do with the plot. How do you think those were treated? Did you feel like they were a bit fan servicey, or did you think they had the weight that they wanted with it?
I think there's a lot of redundancy in the script, especially in especially in the message of the movie. Like, a lot of characters tell Jesse straight up, you have to choose your destiny. And Mike tells it at the beginning of the movie. Jane says it at the very end of the movie. Walt says never mind, not Walt, but someone else, I think. What's Robert Forster's character name? The guy who disappears people?
Oh, I wrote it down. Oh, nope, I called him the Disappearer.
Okay.
So that's not his name, but him.
Robert Forster's character in the film tells him that, like, you got yourself into this situation when Jesse's begging for his help. And so, I think my feelings are mixed on it, because yes, I love Jane, yes, I love Mike, and yes, it's good to see them, but on paper, I think it's kind of redundant.
Yeah.
And it's not like if one of those two in the beginning or the end were cut out of the movie, it would have been the same quality movie. Like, it wouldn't, like, they're both kind of unnecessary. I wouldn't choose which one to cut because I really like Jane and Mike.
If you had to, though.
If I had to, I'd cut Mike out of the beginning and make the audience learn it with Jesse along the way. Yeah, I don't know. I with Badger and Skinny Pete, I actually really like that they have grown to a point where they're willing to take care of him like that, and you go from this really torturous. You see Jesse go from this really torturous environment, this really heightened situation, where his father figure was just killed in front of him, or his father figure killed himself and his captorers right in front of him. And he got out of that traumatic environment, and all of a sudden he's back in this familiar situation where his friends are just playing video games while he's sad. And I like that about that scene. I don't mind. I would keep Skinny and Badger in there for sure. And there's this, and the really awesome line at the end with Skinny is when he says, "Dude, "You're my hero" and shit. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
nice."
it's so like wholesome and sentimental. Like
Yeah,
Skinny, what you doing?
yeah. Like, despite everything bad that's happened to Jesse, despite all the suffering that he's gone through, despite all the bad things that he did, he earned the respect of other people on his own, and I love that about that line too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in agreement too. I think Mike and Jane both are saying the same thing. Uh, I don't know if I have the heart to say that I would cut Mike out, but I don't have the heart to say I'd cut Jane out either. So I'm
Yeah,
in the same boat with you. I think just because of placement, Mike's would have to be the one that's cut.
right.
Um, but yeah, Badger and Skinny Pete, that like scenes with them are just fantastic. Like it's great. Like I wrote down that line that you said too, the "You're my hero" and shit is fantastic, and it's great that like they still have an admiration, even though at points in the series Jesse was pretty abusive with them when they were dealing for him. Like he was pretty much the reason Combo died. Like he did
Yeah,
not really value them as friends. And so it's nice to see like no, like you were doing what you were doing. You were building an empire, and like we respect the hustle. And so it's
yeah,
cool to see that like the "You're my hero" and shit just like is the final stamp at the end of their friendship.
yes,
But also, like you said, after coming out of the torturous environment, uh, the scene with them just shows Jesse's PTSD after being like held captive on a chain for so long. When
yeah,
he's like trying to break out of the bedroom and he's just losing his mind. Like it's real hard to watch. It's powerful and it's offset good with their banter because Badger and Skinny Pete are kind of clown characters, and so it's nice to have that comic relief when you're still early in the movie, but you still feel the weight of Jesse because it is a familiar environment and he's still not doing super well. Um, it's pretty tight, and so
yeah,
yeah, I'm in whole agreement. I think they were treated justly, and it's nice to see the return. Those characters always put a smile on my face, so it's just good to see. I miss my boys.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. And then you mentioned the disappearer, Robert Forrester, in his last role ever. The movie was released on the day he passed away, which
Yeah,
is real sad. Rest in peace. Um, but I like it a lot. I like that he doesn't take any bullshit still. Like he's still
yeah,
like, no, fuck you. Like you made your choice. I'm sticking by my word. Um, it's fantastic. I think he's handled maybe one of the best out of everybody. Him and Todd, I think they did absolutely nail. Um, his inclusion in the film is kind of an obvious one, but I think it's one that like the plot would want. Like for Mike and Jane, the general plot of the movie, we don't like they could take it or leave it. It's more just like side character extra stuff.
yeah,
Um, but like for him, he's in the thick of the storyline for Jesse because he's arguably his only way out of this situation. And so I think that that's why he works so well for me, and why Todd works so well for me, is that they're grounded in the story of this movie in particular, rather than like the Breaking Bad universe. Like it wouldn't make sense if Saul Goodman just showed up and was like, "Hey guys, I'm Saul. Hey." Like
yeah.
it'd be weird. It'd be out of place, and I think that that's why they work so well. But what do you think about Robert? And then we can go more into Todd and take that branch.
Yeah, I like this character a lot, and not just because I love this actor. I think we see a little bit of it in season 5, but we see it really here, like how rigid this guy's code of honor is,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of why, um, and seeing him contrast with Walt in season 5, and then contrast with Jesse here. is really really cool, because unlike Walt, Jesse is not doing this to be a coward. He's doing this to start over. And I think that that the disappearer can sense that. I think he can sense that, and that's why he gives him this, not tough love, because it's his code that you give me the money or else I can't help you.
Yeah, the very Western philosophy too. Like
Yes.
he sticks with that genre, I guess would be. I almost said theme, but it's not really come as a theme.
Right.
But yeah, like the genre bleeding into the film a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think it's interesting to see, because this movie is full of characters, a lot of side characters who are not that kind of person, and who are the exact opposite. And like, what's the guy's name? Neil. He instantly, like, flips and changes his mind based on the situation, and based on how advantageous it is to him. But with Robert Forster's character, it doesn't matter what kind of danger he's in. It doesn't matter even if someone's putting a gun at him. Like, he's sticking to what he does, and so I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's executed fantastically, and another great performance. They did him justice, and I like that. They also, I think they did Todd justice. Jesse Plemons. We get some nice backstory into what was happening when Aaron was held captive. Because in the show, we kind of just see him forced to cook meth. Here's him on a chain. Here's him trying to escape. Isn't it sad? Anyway, back to Walter. And so it's nice to see, like, oh, they made him like do errands where he's having to move bodies with Todd and shit like that. Like, it's cool to see what we were missing when we were focusing so much on Walter in that last season. It's awesome. They have a weird relationship, because Todd like tries to be a friend, even though the dynamic is so like toxic and abusive. And I think that that's kind of exemplified most after they do those chores, and Jesse has the upper hand for once and has a gun on Todd. It's a fucking crazy, powerful moment where this man has been beaten down so much that he's afraid to like gain that freedom and finally make that choice.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Todd and his little weird relationship with Jesse in this one?
Yeah, I remember watching the behind the scenes briefly, and Jesse Plemons was saying, I always wondered what kind of music Todd listened to, and now I know.
Yeah. And boy, is it awful. Seeing him like singing in the car and trying to get the train or the truck to honk, I'm like, fuck you. Get out of here, Todd.
Yeah, this guy is I just watched. Oh yeah, in Cowboy Bebop they say it like there's nothing more cruel and impulsive than children, and I sense that in Todd. Like, he's a child in a man's body with man's weapons and a man's strength. And so, seeing him in that car, like that in the car singing, sharing the night together, like it was it's that kind of eerie. Just something's off about this person. He's all the way there intellectually, but there's something about the way he processes emotions really really sick and really twisted. I like that he's kind of representative in this film, at least, or in this story, of the depth of Jesse's trauma. And I like that the film gives us a look inside of his head. There's a little. It's kind of hard to see in the movie, but you can see it in the behind the scenes, like all the different snow globes that he has. they're all homemade and they're all really twisted. Like it's so weird. And there's like a weird one of him with Lydia, and Lydia's like in a teacup. It's weird. But I like that about it. I like that they give Jesse Plemons more scenes with Aaron Paul, because they're both really amazing character actors. It kind of sucks that so much time has passed that he looks significantly older. Unfortunately,
And he was like bulking up for his roles for like Black Mass at the time,
right.
and some of those, which is why he looks a bit thicker.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You kind of buy into it because he fell back into the role so seamlessly. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
miss a beat when playing the character still.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it 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 didn't uh it didn't bug me that him and Aaron Paul looked older. Like it was just kind of um I it made me just wish that I could have watched this in season 5, you know. Um Especially because a lot of the color things that I talked about earlier, a lot of those were in their scenes, which are some of
Yeah.
the best scenes in the movie. So, like,
Mhm.
you know, it's kind of a bummer, but you know, it's yeah, I like the way they wrote the character, and I like the way the character was executed,
Yeah.
despite all that.
Also, motherfucker still has that tarantula.
So
I hate
God.
it. When
Yeah.
they cut to the cop slash not cop looking at it, I'm like, ugh, fuck you, Todd.
Yeah.
So much of this movie is just like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, him bribing Jesse with a pizza. Like that's his bargaining chip. I was gonna get you to take pizza. Oh, yeah. But overall, they do a pretty decent job with Todd. I think it's smart to have him and Jesse carry the torch for this movie, because they have the best chemistry besides uh, Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston. Aaron Paul and Jesse Plemons were probably the next two that had the best chemistry. Um, they're fantastic. They're great foils for each other, and seeing that relationship play out a bit more is great. And like you said, a lot of my favorite scenes too involve them together. There is also a lot of flashbacks in this. I believe most of them were still shot for this movie specifically, instead of using like deleted leftover scenes. I might be wrong on that, but from what I read, most of them were shot. Um, and they're all shot handheld, the same as Breaking Bad, but in the present, it's pretty locked on a tripod, which I thought was cool. It's another cinematography thing that I think they did right,
Yeah.
in an aspect of the film that was probably lacking. They got that part right. It was cool to see. Maybe even doing the whole thing handheld, even though you lose the, I don't know. DPs like to do, oh, when we're in the past we do this, but when we're in the present we do this kind of kind of things. They fucking lose their minds over that, and so I
Yeah.
get it when the temptation's there, it's there. I think it was executed well though. That was one good thing I liked about the cinematography. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I guess.
Jesse.
Yeah, I guess Jesse's all that's left. I was trying to see if there was any big characters we met. I mean, Walt shows up, but he's like in one scene with 16 minutes left in the film, so it's not even like I don't know. It's cool to see. I think they did a decent job. It's like if they got rid of Mike or Jane, it would be the equivalent of whatever remained. Like, here's this
Yeah.
lesson that Walter wanted to teach. But I like that it wasn't all, hey, Bryan Cranston's in this movie. Like, it's strictly a Jesse movie, and I like
Yeah.
that. I like the minimal Walter in this movie. I think worked out in its favor heavily. But I guess, do you want to comment on Walter coming back before we go to Jesse?
Yeah, I think the reveal of him coming out of the hotel room was fun. It was cool. I can see the bald cap. It, you know, it didn't help the movie. The using CGI to blend it, it just kind of looked something was off, especially after just finishing the series. Um, I love his the kind of the bickering that they have, where he says like where he assumes that Jesse doesn't have his GED yet. He's like, I graduated high school, dick. No thanks to you. Like I really like that about it. I like that you get kind of the at each other's throats thing that made the show good in the first place.
Walt trying to be an elitist prick.
Yeah, and it was fan servicey to see him and to see the RV in the same place, but also it's kind of interesting that it happened. I think this flashback takes place right after 4 Days Out, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so
like after they finally get that all fixed up.
Yeah, so we're at a point in the story where Walt still thinks that he's going to die of cancer. And I think it's really cool that he imparts Jesse with that quote at this point in the story where he says, you're really lucky, that you didn't have to wait your whole life to do something special.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's twisted that Walt still thinks that what they're doing is good and artful and beautiful. On the other hand, like you see their complex relationship over the whole series. Like, you can't really end Jesse's story without addressing a moment like this, a moment where they see eye to eye, and a moment where where for a moment Walt sees potential in Jesse.
Yeah.
Of course, he forgets about it immediately, but it's really I think it's in the hands of a lesser screenwriter than Vince Gilligan, this movie would have been garbage.
Even if it was like a great screenwriter who wasn't involved in Breaking Bad, it would have been garbage.
Yeah, like he gives us great lines like that line that just tug at your heart like that, and I really appreciate that about it. Even though, yeah, it's on the nose, yeah, it's fan servicey, but it's still just nice to hear. And I think that's really when you cross that threshold of fan service into like actually doing something good.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if the movie is fan servicey, there's a fucking cowboy duel in it. So like, who gives a shit? Like
it's great.
It still has that charm where it's like, yeah, you don't like us, we're still gonna rob a train. So like, whatever. It still has that like chip on its shoulder, which I love. But going to Jesse, he's a very tortured soul. And that's no different in this movie. He's still the angsty victim, but he finally frees himself. We see Walt free him, but it's nice to have Jesse like, okay, you're up. Like you've got to take charge, or you're dead in jail forever. Like it's one or the other, and so it's nice. It's nice to see him forced to like take charge when it was something that Breaking Bad kind of was like, ooh, he's turning on Walt and he has like control over this, but Walt gets the upper hand. So like he never fully gets that agency of his own life, and so it's nice to see him in that driver's seat, and also see him struggle with being in that driver's seat. And that's what a lot of the flashbacks are for. Like the one that I mentioned where he pulls a gun on Todd, it's him struggling to be able to stand up to an abuser who's in charge of him. That's Breaking Bad right there. Him struggling to stand up to Walt the entire thing. And so it's cool that they keep that and have him overcome that, like, maybe not final obstacle, because I think you could make a point that the final obstacle is him dealing with the guilt that he's affected so many lives so negatively and so profoundly. But one of the final obstacles, at least, he gets to overcome, and I think it's great. Like we said, Aaron Paul absolutely kills it. Vince Gilligan kills it writing his story throughout this, and I like it. I think at the core of this movie, that's what it excels at, is giving Jesse his due and giving
Yes.
him the win.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Especially what you said about the thing with the driver's seat. I thought it's a brilliant move on the part of the team behind Breaking Bad. I remember in the behind the scenes, not of this, but of the show, they talked about potentially killing Jesse in the finale, and they ultimately decided to keep him in because they just didn't have the heart to kill this guy. And Vince Gilligan, or not Vince Gilligan, one of the producers said, in the writers' room, like everybody's a fan of Jesse, obviously, but in the writers' room, we were Jesse's first fans when he was coming up. And
even like trying to kill him into season 1, they're like, no, we can't. Like that stayed true the whole thing because he's just that great.
Exactly. Like there's something about this guy that we absolutely love, and it's that he has kept, despite everything that's happened to him, he has kept his integrity. He has kept his kind of the thing that makes him special is still there from beginning to end, and yeah, like you said about about being in the driver's seat, he's grown into a really capable, really driven, and a really highly resourceful man. He's no longer the kid that knows how to cook meth. He's a man. He's a fully fledged outlaw, and he. He's done all of this despite the good, despite the bad, despite the ugly in his own life, and the movie does a great job getting him to that point without being this kind of PTSD porn movie where you're just, like I've seen so many TV shows where a character is doing some monotonous task like taking a shower and then they remember getting hosed down. Like that's a trick that's been used several times, but in a show and even in movies. But here, because we have that entire 5-year journey with this guy, it works. And these things that we're familiar with, the escape of the outlaw, the clever ending to the clever twist in the duel, like in the gun duel, like all these things that are super familiar to us feel triumphant because we've been suffering alongside this guy for so long. So I think it's absolutely it's something that it's the role of a lifetime, and Aaron Paul like really like every single frame of it from season 1 to the end is great. And I like that at the very end he also like still has those scars, but he's got a smile on his face, like he's never really going to get over this, but he's more equipped, he's more ready, he's more driven to move forward.
Yeah, and he's free for like the first time since he was putting chili pea in meth.
Yeah.
Like it's the first time he has some semblance of freedom. Yeah, it's great. They really did a good job with him, and it's so easy to fuck this up. Like it's such a thin line you have to ride with making a Breaking Bad movie like 4 years after it finishes.
Yeah,
you're not gonna do well, and the fact that they made like a pretty decent movie out of it is pretty amazing. We mentioned that it was a bit of a Western, and you touched on it with the cheeky dual cheating and stuff like that. But what other connections did you notice? There's the obvious Lone Ranger against the law kind of just overarching plot. But what stood out to you, Mr. Western aficionado?
When he's out in the desert with Todd, you get these really interesting drone shots where the drone doesn't really move. It just kind of stays still, and you really get a chance to see just how small him and Todd are in the middle of the desert. That's a huge trope in westerns.
Yeah. The vast landscapes.
The vast landscape in comparison to our struggles. But also in this, it serves an interesting function. It shows how how deep Jesse was in that pit, you know,
Yeah.
and just uh, how big the obstacle of Todd was for him. You know, Todd, the desert is supposed to be this place of freedom. It's supposed to be the place where he and Walt went and cooked without worrying about the law. But he's out there. He's out in the desert, and he's still imprisoned by this guy. I enjoyed that a lot about it. I enjoy that they didn't that you know they weren't afraid to mix other stuff, other things in there too. Like it wasn't just a western. You know, they get electronic in the more suspenseful Hitchcockian scenes, especially in the apartment. Um, there's a really awesome top-down time lapse. That's probably my favorite shot in the movie. Second favorite shot in the movie. Yeah, I love it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's cool that they lean into it a bit more than in Breaking Bad. Because in Breaking Bad, you have those moments. You
Right.
could compare that desert moment to when Walt is on his knees with Gus in the desert begging to not have his family killed. Like
Yeah.
there's still those moments, but it's nice that they committed to it for a 2 hour long episode in a way. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it's well executed, much like a lot of this movie. And you have to get some certain key things right, and I think that was one of them. You want to go to favorite scenes?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Cool. Why don't you kick us off with one of yours?
I kind of talked about it, or we briefly talked about it, but rolling up the body in the carpet, I thought that scene was eerie as hell, and it's really really disturbing, especially when he just takes the belt off her neck and puts it on himself, starts making bean
Yeah,
soup.
that shit's fucked up. the putting the
Yeah.
belt on, you're like,
And it's just a minor inconvenience for this guy. He's not really even thinking about uh, like remorse or anything. It's weird. Or he is kind of like it's like a twisted remorse. It's like, man,
because
I wish
she was a good housekeeper. Like that's
Yeah.
that's why he's upset, because she was good at her job.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I like the kind of dark humor of it. It's kind of Coen Brothers-y. It's kind of interesting that way, and I like you know, even though I don't like the color palette in the flashbacks, I do like the framing and the composition and the blocking within the kitchen. I think it's really really good and really well done on Gilligan's part.
Yeah, that definitely made my list as well. And so did another scene in that same apartment. I think that apartment is some of the highlights of the film, and
Yeah.
that's the face off with the fake cops. It's great, from him hiding in the kitchen to him like kind of scrounging around to the twist that they're not real cops. I think it's all well executed. The first time I watched it, I genuinely didn't see them not being cops thing coming.
Yeah.
But it's just a reminder that this is the Breaking Bad world where everybody's a fucking criminal, and so why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just great suspense, I think, is what it comes down to. It's a very engaging moment or scene in the movie, and it's just well done. Like it's not this hardship that Jesse's going through. It's just a fun, suspenseful, like you said, Hitchcockian type of thrilling scene, and it's well done.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Another one of mine is the scene right before the killing of Neil. It's a callback to all the way to season 2, I think episode 5 or episode 6, when Jesse touches the beetle and kind of lets it crawl in his hand. I think that's a very precious scene. I forgot to shout it out in our season 2 review. I noticed in the edit, and I felt really bad about it because I even wrote it down. That this guy really values all life. He values every single. He doesn't want. He has a reluctance to kill, unlike Walt or unlike any of the other characters he comes across. Um, and I appreciate that so much about Jesse. I appreciate that they took the time to call that back, and especially right before a climactic scene to do that. And of the little homages to Breaking Bad, the show, it was my favorite, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's also, I the reason why they chose to shoot digital is because they wanted the to shoot at night and use the low light features, and I think that's one of those scenes where that cinematography really paid off.
Yeah, I agree. There's also another one of those moments that kind of show Jesse's weird humanity, despite everything he's done, and that's when he tricks his parents into leaving and he goes back to steal their gun. He
Yeah,
turns a leaking faucet off. Like that's just so it's just so small and like cute of a gesture that he's like, even though he's fucking these people over and like disturbing them mentally, like he still has the courtesy to be like, oh well, I'll turn this little faucet off for you. Um, it's just small moments like that that make you love Jesse. Like that's those reasons are why we're like, fuck yeah, I love this dude.
yeah, yeah. Um, I thought that's a great scene too because I thought he was gonna rob them, and I was like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
if all he needs is 18. But the fact that he took the guns was I thought that was really cool and really clever.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, my last one is the gun duel.
Yeah.
You know,
Same.
it's
How could it fucking not be? It's so badass.
There's the "Are you ready?" and you get or Neil says, "Are you ready?" and you get this green tinted profile of the right side of Jesse's face, which has the most scars on it, and he kind of smirks and he's looking forward. He's looking at the right side of the frame, and he like Neil says, "Are you ready?" He just says, "Yeah," and he nods, and it's super cool. Like the boy has become a man, and it's dope. And then the cleverness of keeping as soon as I saw him like reveal the first gun in his waist, I was like, oh, the other one's in his pocket. The other one's in his pocket. I was really happy about that. But the part that surprised me was the fact that his jacket caught on fire and he just goes like,
Yeah,
I was like,
like
that's
pats it
so
out.
dope. That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a badass scene.
Yeah,
Super
and you
satisfying.
fucking hate Neil because he's a piece of shit. And
Yeah.
like the build up to it with them and the strippers is awful. But Jesse just like patiently waits for the strippers to leave.
Yeah.
Like that shit's great. It's just fantastically executed and obviously a great Western moment in this movie. Probably the most direct Western like thing that happens in the entire film. Um, yeah, it's badass. Plus the glass breaks, and that's exciting.
The glass breaks.
It's got everything you need in a movie.
It's got everything.
Glass breaks, beetle.
And the entire scheme works because they underestimate Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Which
been the
is
thing
when he does the best.
It's exactly it. It's exactly it. And they pay for that mistake with their life,
Yeah.
with their lives. I mean, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all I got. I mean, there's not a lot to it. We pretty much wrapped it up pretty good, I think. Anything else you want to add?
No, that was it.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
if you want to watch it and you haven't, sorry for spoiling it, but Netflix. It's a Netflix original.
Yeah.
So it's there. Watch it if you want.
Hell yeah. All right. I guess we can move on to Cowboy Bebop, the movie.
After a brief interruption by... Sorry, is there an actual end of that sentence?
Yeah, I was going to say, or the Japanese titled Cowboy Bebop Knockin' on Heaven's Door.
Or we can have a brief intermission.
Cool.
Bad reviews.
DV or D4V3CS in today's installment of Jared Reed's Poorly Written Reviews of the movies that we're watching because it's funny and it makes them laugh and stuff. This one is titled Bad ... FDA. Gave it a 1 out of 10. Also, I don't know what FDA means. I thought it was like an acronym I wasn't getting.
Federal Drug Administration?
Yeah, Food and Drug. That's all I.
Food and Drug
That is all I could think of. If you know another, viewers, let us know. This one was a long one. I cut it down. Here we go. What's this? The storyline is nothing but exploitation of action scenes. Even the soundtrack is just too mesmerizing. This reminds me of Final Fantasy the Spirit, within where most critics mention that the movie is just a show-off of special effect with awful storyline. The usual Bebop characters are just put down some mannequin class action. Frustrating. And what's with Faye? It will be rather subjective, but I like the lady a lot despite her fashion style. She never appeared cheap though, so treat her with respect. And in the movie, whoever wrote the script and direct it must be one horny person or someone who is trying to meet the demands of the horny fans. Disgusting. The only part I enjoyed were the common Bebop jokes and tiny characterization of Faye and Spike in one part. ... Well, like I've mentioned, if you are a true Bebop fan who reach personal levels with the characters, don't bother with this one. It's just awful.
Damn.
Yeah.
But he called it mesmerizing music. And
he's like,
scenes.
The action scene. Yeah, it was more of a compliment the whole time, really. The only thing they didn't like was them sexualizing his baby girl, Faye, who's a pretty sexual charged character. And the only like sexualizing scene of her is like an attempted rape scene, kind of. And so it's like a weird, I don't know, weird criticism. But yeah, that's the best I could find. There wasn't a lot shitting on this movie. There was more shitting on Breaking Bad, the movie. Most of this was just Bebop fans going, yeah, it was fun.
Oh man. That's funny. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't really it doesn't it doesn't make sense like all the best bad reviews. But I thought that was good. That was cool. That was cool. Cowboy Bebop Knockin' on Heaven's Door was released a few years after many fans demanded more Cowboy Bebop following the ambiguous ending. They don't answer any questions about that ending, but
no, they don't give you a single morsel.
But what I like about this movie is that it actually kind of stands great on its own. Like it's you don't have to have seen the series before watching this, and it's like kind of a good advertisement for the rest of the series. I don't recommend just watching the movie and then not watching anything else. I don't think that makes sense at all. But I think there's enough of the themes, there's enough of the good little nuggets that you appreciate about all the characters in the series that are in this film. It takes place in between session 22 and session 23, but it still stays true to the ending despite having a complex plot. And yeah, it's an interesting film, I think. I gave it a 8.1. I think it's one of the better sci-fi anime films out there. There's not a whole lot of there's a lot of great ones, but if you're comparing it to the best, like Ghost in the Shell and Akira, I actually like this better. I think it's a much more fleshed out action film. I think the music is just as good as the series, and I really like it. There are a couple characters that are sidelined, and I didn't appreciate that about the movie. Um, I think the timing of it is a little weird, dealing with um, uh, terrorism almost immediately after 9/11. Obviously that was not on purpose, but I wonder if they were if the, I saw a lot of criticism about the movie because of that, and I don't blame the filmmakers because they didn't know while they were writing the movie that would happen. Um,
Unless.
no, um, it is kind of weird in retrospect. It is weird watching it, and you can't help but let it sink into your head. Um, And but yeah,
it would be like if the Strokes left New York City Cops on Is This It?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate it. I think the animation's even better than the show. Did I say my score?
Yeah, 8.1, I think you said.
8.1. Yeah. What'd you think?
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was a really good 2-part episode of Cowboy Bebop. Like that's that's pretty much all it is.
Yeah.
I like that they stick with the same themes. The villain even has like the conflicting past that crept into his future, and now he wants to inflict that pain on everybody else. I thought that was cool that it still feels like part of the show.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, it just felt like part of the show. Like I didn't really see a need for this movie besides, hey, here's some more episodes of Cowboy Bebop. Like it
Yeah.
didn't add anything to the series that was like missing. It didn't give any like there's nothing really connecting them besides it's just part of the show, which they don't have to do.
Yeah.
But I just think it's just strange to make a standalone movie that fits in the middle of a series, and it just felt weird in terms of like placement and timing.
Gotcha.
I did like the animation was great, a lot of fucking great action scenes. Um, Edward's still annoying as fuck. She didn't change for me. I still surprise didn't like her in this either. But she is more useful in this than a lot of Bebop episodes. I feel like even in some Bebop episodes, she's just kind of lounging around. But I don't know. It's good. I liked it. I think it was a like very good series of Bebop episodes. But like in a tandem with the show, I think that's where most of my faults lied. I gave it a 7.9. So I gave it a higher score than the Breaking Bad movie, but I do think it is a better standalone film, which at the end of the day is kind of the goal of making a film, is you want it to kind of stand on its own legs.
Yeah.
But I think they just kind of could have done more with the source material that they had, if that made sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. Especially when something's that popular, and it's so rich, and then you just kind of follow it up with something like this. I can imagine that.
It's like, oh, you guys are clamoring for some more Bebop. Here's some episodes that we didn't want to release. Ooh, deleted scenes. Like it just kind of feels like that. Like, oh,
Right.
here, give us your money.
Yeah. I it On the other hand, though, it is kind of nice after all
Yeah.
those sad endings to see
Yeah.
everybody kind of back together and see the whole family together. And
That
Punch and
is
Judy
true.
aren't canceled yet. The Big Shock Bounty Hunter show, which
It's like finding an old VHS tape of your like family.
that about it. Yeah. I can kind of go through not necessarily we can go through characters a bit because it's kind of the same
If you
people.
want.
But what did you? We deal with a brand new villain named Vincent, an interesting background, much like some of the better Cowboy Bebop villains. What'd you think about him?
Yeah, I most of my flaws with him, I'll get those off the table before I go into what I liked. Most of them come down to that he felt like a Walmart vicious at times in terms of his relationship with Spike. Um, like that rivalry, it feels like something that we'd seen better before. But on the other side of that coin, he's like a better Teddy Bomber. Like he's he's also got that aspect to him. So he fits in
Sure.
like this weird middle ground between the two for me.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked him. I think it's a good, compelling villain, which the show does well, but they don't ever really take time to flesh him out too much. And so it was nice that they kind of gave him a little more justification for why he's evil and what he does, what he does. I like that he ties into the theme of the past that is dripping throughout the whole show. It's cool to see that. I think he's got a unique bio weapon that wasn't really in the show at all. The closest thing I could think of was the PETA people trying to destroy humanity with a bio weapon.
Right.
But it's pretty uncharted territory for the show, which is cool. It seemed like they could have kind of ran out of ideas, but it's nice that they didn't. And I like that he's actually like a competitive foe for everybody. Like
Yeah.
he's actually gonna fucking kick some ass. And usually the problem with Bebop villains, or like their problem with the villains they face, is that they can't find them, and then once they do, they take them down fairly easily. Like it's not really ever a huge drawn out battle. They get away, they gotta hunt them down again. Like there's not a ton of challenge once they find them, and so it's nice that like they struggle to find him, and it was hard to get him when they found him,
Yeah.
and like all this other stuff is going on. So there's just more of a struggle, which was good to see. So overall, I really liked him, honestly.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I like what you said about that because even though Spike and Faye survive, like because it takes place before the end, the danger
It would
still
have been
feels
cool
real.
if it was like a parallel universe thing, like where they just kill them off entirely, and they're like, "What?
Oh my God.
Sorry." Like it's a fucking different movie. It has nothing
Oh,
to do
yeah.
with the show.
There's a lot of anime that do that actually.
Oh, I'm sure. It
Yeah.
seems like a very anime thing to do.
Dude,
But for my white boy Western eyes, it would have been cool.
like normally this guy was made uncomfortable by the scene with Faye and Vincent, and I think it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. If in the rest of the show,
we've never seen Faye's sexuality be like against her.
yeah, exactly. Like she uses it as a weapon the entire time, and this time when she almost gets assaulted, it's harrowing. It's dangerous. It's crazy, and you feel for her as a character, obviously, because you love her from the show and you want her to get out of there. And it's cool when she does get out of there and she gets back into the spaceship and she does the thing with all that stuff in the air battles. And even in the beginning, like Faye still gets a lot of clever moments where she's underestimated but finds a new clue on her own. So I think the way they treated her as a character was great. But yeah, like as a danger to Spike and Faye, I think Vincent absolutely succeeded. I think the sci-fi aspect of this movie was, I think, one of the more interesting things, because you get a little bit of the same vibe, like you said, with Teddy Bomber, but also with the brain scratch villain, the guy who wants everybody to see the same dream that he has, or everybody to be asleep like he is.
Yeah, computer.
Yeah. And with here, he sees, we get kind of the second Cowboy Bebop exploration into psychedelia. The first being the mushroom episode, but with this one, the psychedelic dreamlike nature of what Vincent sees tortures him, and so he wants to spread that pain around to the rest of the world. And I think I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the best animation aspects of the show, to see the textures and see the CGI butterflies glowing. And when Spike sees them for the first time, it's really, really like stunning and beautiful. I love it a lot. But yeah, I love Vincent as a character. What did you think about Elektra?
Elektra, she was cool. I think most of what I get out of her is she and Spike have one of the best fight scenes in the whole movie, and I think that that's like kind of where my interest in her starts and ends. She's a cool character to have in here, but I didn't really latch on to her the same way I latched on to Vincent. She's like why can't I remember her name? His boo that gets killed in the show.
Julia?
Yeah. She's like that, like just a kind of whatever character that I don't really care too much about.
Yeah.
But we get a badass fight scene out of her, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it is cool that they had an Arabic character who was like kick-ass, who was well-intentioned, who was good-hearted, and who was nicely characterized, and and the movie came out at a time where anti-Arab sentiment was quite popular and quite prominent. Yeah,
especially here in the land of tolerance.
Yeah, like I think I think having her in the movie was a nice touch, but not really. I agree, not really much else. I do love the fight scene between her and Spike. He has that famous line that, "I love a woman who looks like she can kick my ass," or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, her and Spike breaking out of jail is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
It's also a great scene. So like she's got great moments, but I'm not like invested in her as a person.
Yeah, same. And we've talked a little bit about them, but what did you think of just generally the Cowboy Bebop crew besides Ed? I know you don't like Ed, but what'd you think about the way they were?
I think it's good. Spike and Faye get their due. I think they're kind of the stars of the Bebop crew in this movie for sure. Jet, I could barely remember many scenes with him. Like looking back, I think he just kind of is there in this movie. And like the intro robbery scene is cool with him. But even then he's like making mistakes and shit. And so I don't know. I was kind of disappointed in Jet's representation. Maybe I'm just blanking and forgetting some stuff, but I think they could have used him a little more. But Faye and Spike get their due. They're both badass. They're both vulnerable. And I think that they did the characters justice in this. And then Ed's annoying. And Ein is cute and provides useful information, even though I still don't really understand how Ein works as, like, what the fuck is a data dog? It just provides ex machinas at will, but like it's cool. I still like Ein.
Yeah, Ein's great. I think it's just it's not meant to be like an ex machina. It's just like a comedic relief. Like you got these really accomplished bounty hunters, and a
Yeah,
dog beats them to the punch.
yeah,
Yeah, uh, yeah. That's pretty great. Uh, I agree. I think Spike's kind of uh, it's not a solid realization, but he does get this other seed in his mind um, that kind of makes him think that he's dreaming because even after he gets vaccinated, even after he defeats Vincent, he still sees the butterfly. And and to us as an audience, we know, oh, it's because Spike resonates with this guy and he empathizes with him and um, he and there are still like he situations like this actually get to him. Even, but Spike doesn't get to that conclusion until the very end because he doesn't want to admit these things to himself. He doesn't want to admit these things about himself. And so I, I I I think seeing Vincent struggle with memory and with reality kind of opens up a little door for him, but just a crack, not a whole
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
What do you think about the setting on Mars? It's very different.
It's yeah, it's cool because they talk about Mars fucking endlessly in the show, and so it's cool that we finally get like a big chunk dedicated there. Like
Yeah,
we get to dive into that world a bit. And so I like it. They were kind of teasing me and blue balling me for a whole series. And so it's nice to see that it's just also Earth, but equally as shitty as Earth is now.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's cool. You and like just it being Mars, you can probably assume, oh, when shit started hitting the fan here, we went to Mars, we fucked that shit up, and then we went everywhere else. And so it's cool that it like keeps that kind of timeline feel in its dystopian nature. And so it's done well. It's well executed. It's what I would have asked for out of that setting. And so I can't really ask for too much more than that.
hell yeah. Yeah, Watanabe, Shinichiro Watanabe, the director, was inspired by a trip that he took to Morocco, and so that's why you get all these Arabic flavors in the setting, and it kind of it matches the show's commitment to diversity and variety and really playing into the Western vibes, you know. But you know, it's a desert like Jupiter, but it's a very different desert, or a very different desert from Titan even. Um, I like that they stick to the Cowboy Bebop music instead of doing the stereotypical Arabic music when you go into the
Yeah.
Middle East that everyone does.
Thank
Uh,
God.
yeah, and I just love the way it's drawn. You know, like the dark clothing that we already know on Spike and that we already know from Vincent. Like it really beautifully pops out against like these tan buildings and they're I like the way like at different times of day they tint them orange and pink and stuff. It's really nice.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. The whole movie is beautifully animated, but it also keeps the style from the show that we wanted. Like you put them next to each other, you'll see that one's more modern than the other, but you can tell like they didn't try something new. It's not the, oh, we're going to use a tripod and not do any weird shit in Breaking Bad. It's we're going to stay true to the style but like update it and make it a little more sleek and clean, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It the result of that is are really amazing textures, but um, Watanabe also talked about wanting to make the movie look more and feel more cinematic. So, were there any moments in the film that were animated in a way that to you looked more cinematic than usual from Cowboy Bebop?
Ooh. Definitely the butterfly hallucinations.
Yeah,
Immediately kind of jump out. I feel like that's the obvious choice. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of the pinnacle of it. I'm kind of blanking on any others, but because I didn't write that in my. Oh, when it's raining too.
Yeah.
When they do the vaccine, that shit's badass too. Um, so that's definitely making the cut for that department. It's a beautiful scene. And water's so hard to make look good in animation, but when you pull it off, you're like, okay. And so pulling it off with that style was just some primo A1 type shit, bro.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I definitely see you with the rain thing. Also, when they're fighting on the train, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, they do this really awesome thing where it's like it's really fast dolly, and it's a CGI movement, but they blend it really beautifully with the 2D. And it goes from Vincent to the back of the train car, and Spike's already pointing a gun at him. I thought that was a beautiful shot, and also some of the close-ups of Spike, like they handle depth of field like really well for 2D animation, and I noticed like more textures on the guns and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you talked about. We'll do one last thing before doing our favorite scenes, but I know you talked about the really liking the action in the movie. Is there any characteristics in particular that set this apart from other action films and other like animated action and stuff like that?
It's just so like clean. Like it's not chaotic like a lot of live action scenes are. They kind of do the like Mad Max Fury Road action where it's just smooth and your eye is just drawn to like a continuous line of what's happening.
Yeah.
The eye trace is great, and it's easier to do with animation, but like when it's pulled off this cleanly, you notice, and so it's just so sleek and fluid, in the same way that Spike fights, and I think that that's why it excels so much. Is that it's grounded in a character, like in his style of fighting, but it works super well because that's just the best way to do animated action, is to do it smooth and fluid like that. And so it's just the perfect blend of character and style.
Well said. Well said. I definitely see that blend in Spike, and also in Vincent and Elektra as well. They both have all three of them have distinct fighting styles.
Yeah.
I would also apply that sleekness compliment to the explosions. I think they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I think the dog fights are really good too. Like the way even just the way it's staged, it looks like something out of Top Gun, or something out of Star Wars. It's really special, and I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, shall we move on to favorite scenes?
I'm down. I'm here
Sure.
for it. You want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, first things first. First things. The intro. I love it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's classic Spike, classic Jet. Just him like walking in all smooth, trying to let people's guard down and shit. It's just great. They throw you right back into the bebopian style that they got you so accustomed to.
Yeah.
Spike's smoothness and kind of noir-esque character traits are on full display here. His kind of banter with Jet is great. Yeah, it's just a fantastic introduction, and it might be my favorite scene in the movie, even though it's first. It's just it's so cool. It's familiar yet refreshing in that
Yes.
way.
Yeah. It's 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 a lot of like longtime Cowboy Bebop fans who even watched it when it first came out. Like it's their favorite in the whole franchise. So yeah, excellent pick. Excellent pick.
Cool.
I really love the it happens early in the film. It's not like a super like what's it called? Crucial scene as far as like character or as far as like even just making me happy as a fan. but like the montage of Spike searching throughout the Morocco type area, I just think it's so beautifully done, and the music by Yoko Kanno and the seatbelts is still great in this film as well. But I like, again, you get the really awesome like fake depth of field that makes everything look really cinematic. And when Spike's walking through the crowd and you see just him highlighted, when he's just sitting on the bench, when he's just talking to kids, this is a world that they create. This is a fully fleshed out and breathed in world that they created just for a 2-hour movie, and I really appreciate that about this scene.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
One of the other ones I had was when Spike is in jail with Elektra. Like, not even
Yeah.
just the breakout, them just like chatting it up before, and the weird banter between them is pretty great.
So good.
And it's cool to just see characters chatting in an action-filled movie. It's nice to see Spike kind of beat down a little bit and being captured. Not something that happens to him too often. And so it's just cool to see. I think it's very well done, and the breakout is badass too. The chemistry and just them knowing the plan without even talking about it is great. It's just super well executed.
I agree. Um, Little reference to Julie as well. Yeah. I love the my other scene is when all the old airplanes are taking off, and they're all antique aircraft. I googled it, and they're all like real antique aircrafts that exist in a museum. And just seeing them so haphazardly thrown into the mission, and some of them are crashing before they even get a chance to be useful. I thought that was a really cool thing. I think it's the only it's not the only good jet moment. There are some good jet moments as well early in the film, but just where he's in banter with the rest of the characters. But I really like his reaction to all of that, and I like the 3 old guys are actually like useful in a mission too. Like, they're like, we've been doing this longer than you, and they take off, and they actually save the world. It's pretty great. Yeah. I tied it with the opening credit sequence for my second favorite scene, because like the opening credit sequence, it's not directed by Watanabe, but I just love the photorealism and all of the people's faces, and like it just feels really musical and cool, and it's more bluesy than the rest of the show, which I really like.
Yeah, and that bluesy style isn't something that they stick to the jazz over the blues for a lot of it, and so it's nice to see them kind of lean that direction. Yeah, all the other ones that I wrote down we kind of briefly mentioned. So I'll just rattle them off, and we can dive into any that tickle you. But the train fight, the Elektra fight, the Vincent and Spike face off, and then the butterflies toward the end when they're talking is fantastic. All 4 of those kind of make the cut too. Not quite as much as the opening sequence, but I loved them all.
Yeah. I agree. For my first favorite, I had the train fight, so we can dig into that.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's smooth. The depth of field is fantastic. It's a setting that we don't really see in the show. And like big epic fights like this in claustrophobic places, something about it tickles me. Like the hallway fight in Daredevil, just shit like that. I'm like, yes, use that limited ass space and somehow be dodging shit and doing elaborate stuff. It's just cool, and seeing them both equally adapt to a limiting environment says a lot about their characters and their fighting spirit.
Yeah, man, I agree. It's super cool, the build up to it, like running through the city, and like you think Spike's not really paying attention, but he's actually listening to a police scanner. I think that was so clever. I love how Spike triumphs over Vincent very, very briefly, but then Vincent like slowly gets up and you realize like, oh shit, like he was letting him hit him so that he knew his fighting style and he would be able to beat him later. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And Spike's head hanging out the window too. I was like, oh shit. I remember the first time I watched that movie, like I was like, oh damn, that was really cool. And yeah, man, like you said, the claustrophobic feeling of it, and the fact that Elektra's just right behind them, and you know that in the back of your head, like what's she gonna do? Who's she gonna shoot? What's her connection to Vincent? You get all these questions at the same time that you get this spectacular action. And then it ends with a really, really awesome explosion. Even though it's just smoke, it still looks gorgeous in that wide shot from outside the train.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic scene. Probably my second favorite in the film. Yeah, right behind that opening.
Hell yeah. Well, cool, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's it's not that deep of a movie, so we don't need to do any.
Neither of these
analysis.
are really groundbreaking. They're both kind of just extensions, but they're both great, and they're both worth watching if you're fans of the series.
Yes.
Which is hard to do. Like I said, you can easily fuck up movies based off television shows, especially animated television shows, which none come to mind. There's not one shining example.
Yep, I know exactly what it is.
No, there's nothing.
But yeah, cool, man. That was Cowboy Bebop Knocking on Heaven's Door, or Cowboy Bebop the movie. I don't know where to find it legally. You can, I think, purchase a Blu-ray that's region-free from the UK on eBay. I just did that after having...
That's what both of us did to watch it for this episode.
Absolutely, yes.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. And but yeah, audience, that does it for today. Next week is October. What are you excited?
Oh, I'm very excited. We both are pretty big horror fiends. I guess should we leak what we're the finale of October? Should we get the people excited already? I don't think we've talked about it.
We haven't. I don't know. We could say that we just have a Halloween special on the 26th.
Yeah. We have a Halloween special on the 26th. Stay tuned.
Yeah. But we got a month full of horror stuff for us for spooky season. So so the next 4 episodes will be dedicated to just that. So we're excited to deliver the goods for you next week.
And we're starting off with a bit of a banger. We're doing some slashers. And so who the fuck doesn't like slashers? I'm very excited to talk about my pick with you. Because it's weird. I don't know if you've watched it yet, but it's a strange time.
I have not, but to get myself hyped up, I rewatched Nightmare 1, and so I'm excited to do it.
Okay. Hell yeah.
And I'm interested to hear your opinion about my pick, because it's an interesting movie. It's to say the least.
Yeah. I'll tell you next week.
All right. All right, folks. Well, you can keep up with us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Excuse me.
I transferred my air to you.
On YouTube. But follow us through the link tree on any and all of our channels. And we'll see you next week. We love you.
Bye bye.
Bye.